My daughter screamed at me over the phone. Not cried, not pleaded. Screamed, "I have to pay my debts now." She yelled, "You're selling your jewelry by tomorrow morning. Do you hear me?" I didn't interrupt her. I didn't argue. I didn't even raise my voice. I just smiled. She didn't know that the jewelry she was demanding wasn't something she could ever touch. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. My name is Ruth Caldwell. I'm 69 years old, widowed, retired, and until recently, I believed I had raised a decent human being. I was wrong. I spent most of my life doing what women of my generation were taught to do: work hard, stay quiet, and sacrifice without complaint. I worked as a bookkeeper for a small construction company in Missouri for 32 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and taught me discipline. Every dollar had a place. Every receipt had a folder. My husband, George, died 9 years ago after a short illness. Lung cancer. Aggressive, unforgiving. When he passed, people told me I was lucky he had left me something. They meant well. What they didn't understand was that what he left me wasn't wealth. It was responsibility. Our daughter, Megan, was 27 when George died. She moved back home temporarily. That temporary stay turned into 3 years. During that time, I cooked, cleaned, paid utilities, and listened to her talk endlessly about how unfair life was to her. Megan had always been dramatic, emotional. Everything was a crisis. A bad boss was abuse. A missed opportunity was sabotage. Debt, apparently, was never her fault. Still, she was my daughter. When she finally moved out, I helped her with the deposit. When she switched jobs, I loaned her money to get by. When she met Kyle, a man who wore expensive watches but never seemed to have cash, I ignored the warning bells in my head. The first time Megan mentioned my jewelry, it sounded harmless. "Mom," she said casually one afternoon while visiting, "you still have Grandma's pieces, right?" "Yes," I replied. "Why?" She shrugged. "Just curious. They must be worth a lot now." The jewelry she was referring to wasn't costume. It was old, heirloom pieces passed down through George's family. A sapphire ring, a gold bracelet, a pair of diamond earrings. Nothing flashy, but everything meaningful. "They're not for sale," I said. She laughed. "Relax, I was just asking." That was the first sign. The second sign came a few months later. Megan started showing up unannounced. She would sit at my kitchen table, scrolling on her phone, barely listening when I spoke. Sometimes she'd glance toward the small safe tucked discreetly behind a cabinet. "You know," she said once, "most parents help their kids when things get tough." "I have helped you," I replied gently. "Not like this," she snapped. "This is serious. I didn't know then just how serious it was." The third sign came with paperwork. Megan arrived one morning with a folder. "These are just insurance updates," she said quickly. "And emergency contact stuff. Kyle's uncle works in finance. He said everyone our age should update things. I read every page. Nothing overtly dangerous. But something felt off." "I'll think about it," I said. Her jaw tightened. "Mom, stop being difficult." "I'm not being difficult," I replied calmly. "I'm being careful." She rolled her eyes. "You always think someone's trying to take something from you. I should have trusted that instinct." 3 weeks before the phone call, Megan's tone changed completely. She stopped asking. She started telling. "You need to help me," she said one night. "I'm drowning." "Help how?" I asked. She hesitated. "I've got some debts. Credit cards, medical bills. Kyle had an emergency. How much?" I asked. She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. The next morning, she showed up again, this time with Kyle. Kyle leaned against my doorway like he owned the place. "Ruth," he said smoothly, "we're family. We don't want things to get messy." That was the moment my stomach dropped. "What do you mean, messy?" I asked. Megan crossed her arms. You have assets. Jewelry just sitting there. You don't even wear it. That jewelry isn't yours, I said firmly. She scoffed. Everything you have will be mine one day anyway. Kyle smiled faintly. Why wait? I told them to leave. They did, but not before Megan said something that stuck with me. You're being selfish, she hissed, when I needed you most. After that, the calls became aggressive. Texts at midnight. Voicemails filled with panic and anger. Then came that call, the one where she screamed. I have to pay my debts now, Megan yelled. Kyle's creditors are threatening legal action. I can't fix this without you. I'm sorry you're stressed, I said quietly. Don't patronize me. She screamed. You're selling your jewelry by tomorrow morning. I already called a buyer. That's when I smiled. Megan, I said calmly, you don't have the authority to sell anything. Her breathing was sharp, frantic. Don't play games with me. I'm not, I replied. And you shouldn't either. You're old, she snapped. You don't understand how things work now. I took a slow breath. You have no idea how things work, I said. She hung up on me. I sat at my kitchen table for a long time after that. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I opened my drawer and pulled out the binder George and I had prepared years earlier, long before Megan ever thought she had leverage. Inside were appraisals, trust documents, insurance policies, receipts, everything organized, everything dated. Because here's what Megan didn't know. That jewelry she wanted me to sell by morning, it wasn't sitting in my house, and it wasn't something she could ever legally force me to touch. And the moment she screamed at me, she gave me exactly what I needed. After Megan hung up on me, the house felt unusually quiet. Not peaceful, alert, the kind of quiet that comes before something breaks. I sat at my kitchen table with my hands folded, staring at the binder George and I had put together years ago. At the time, it had felt unnecessary, almost paranoid. George had insisted. Ruth, he'd said, people change when money enters the conversation. Even family. I hadn't wanted to believe him then. I believed him now. The jewelry Megan was demanding wasn't in my house. It hadn't been for years. After George passed, I'd followed the advice of our estate attorney and moved anything of value into secure storage. Not because I didn't trust Megan, but because trust doesn't replace preparation. The sapphire ring, the diamond earrings, the gold bracelet that once belonged to George's mother, all of it was insured, documented, and locked away under conditions Megan had no authority over. And yet, she had already called a buyer. That detail bothered me, not because she could actually sell anything, but because it meant she believed she could pressure me into compliance before I had time to think. People who rush you don't want agreement. They want surrender. That afternoon, I received 3 more calls. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I called Elaine Porter, the attorney who had helped George and me years ago. Elaine had retired from full-time practice, but she still took calls from former clients. Ruth, she said after listening quietly, your daughter is panicking. I know, I replied. And panic makes people reckless, she continued. Have you checked your financial accounts? I was just about to. Elaine exhaled. Do that first. Then call me back. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank accounts. At first glance, everything looked normal. Then I noticed the details. 2 withdrawals, both under $5,000. Transferred to an account I didn't recognize. My chest tightened. I checked the dates. Both transfers had happened within the last 10 days. I hadn't authorized them. I called the bank immediately. After verifying my identity, the representative spoke carefully. Mrs. Caldwell, it appears these transfers were initiated through online access using stored credentials. Whose credentials? I asked. There was a pause. Your daughter Megan was listed as an emergency contact and secondary access user. I closed my eyes. I remembered now, the form I had signed years ago when Megan first moved back home. It allowed her to view balances in case of emergency. not move money, not transfer funds. Has she been given authority to transfer funds? I asked. No, the representative said. But she attempted it. The system flagged the transactions as unusual. Attempted. So this wasn't desperation. This was escalation. I asked the bank to lock down my accounts and document everything. The representative complied and advised me to visit the branch in person the next morning. When I hung up, my phone buzzed. A text from Megan. Why are you doing this to ME? I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, another message. Kyle says if you don't cooperate, things are going to get ugly. That one I saved. Then I forwarded it to Elaine. Elaine called me back within minutes. Ruth, she said firmly, this has crossed into attempted financial exploitation. I was afraid you'd say that. Good, she replied. Fear means you're paying attention. Elaine advised me to document every interaction and avoid any in-person confrontation without a witness. I thought that was wise. Unfortunately, Megan had other plans. She showed up at my house the next morning. Unannounced, I saw her car pull into the driveway just as I was making coffee. With her was Kyle and a woman I didn't recognize. They didn't knock. They rang the doorbell repeatedly, hard enough that it felt aggressive. I opened the door, but didn't invite them in. What do you want? I asked calmly. Megan's eyes were red, but not from crying, from anger. This, she said sharply, gesturing toward the stranger, is Tara. She's a financial recovery consultant. Tara smiled professionally. Mrs. Caldwell, we're just here to help your family resolve some urgent matters. I didn't invite you, I replied. Kyle stepped forward. Ruth, stop being dramatic. Megan is in real trouble. And threatening me is supposed to help? I asked. Megan threw her hands up. You're unbelievable. We're drowning, and you're sitting on thousands of dollars in jewelry doing nothing. That jewelry isn't available, I said evenly. Tara glanced at Megan. Have the items been appraised? They're insured, Megan snapped. That's not the point. Tara frowned slightly. Insurance doesn't equal liquidity, Kyle cut in. Look, we don't have time for technicalities. Creditors are calling. Lawsuits are coming. I looked at Megan. Then you should speak to a financial counselor. Not your mother, her face twisted. You think this is my fault? She shouted. You raised me to expect support. No, I replied. I raised you to be responsible. Tara cleared her throat. Mrs. Caldwell, perhaps we should discuss alternatives. If you're unwilling to sell assets, there may be other arrangements. Power delegation, oversight. No, I said firmly. Megan laughed bitterly. See? She's not listening. She's not well. That sentence changed everything. I felt something click into place. You're trying to paint me as incompetent, I said quietly. Megan shrugged. If that's what it takes to protect the family? Kyle smiled. Doctors can be convincing. I stared at them. Leave, I said. Now? You can't just, Megan started. I can, I replied. This is my home. They left, but not before Megan turned back. This isn't over, she said. I won't let you ruin my life. That afternoon, Elaine and I met at her office. I laid out everything. The calls, the texts, the attempted transfers, the visit with Tara. Elaine listened without interrupting. Then she said, they're setting you up, I know. They'll try guardianship next, she said, or claim you're being manipulated. What do we do? Elaine slid a notepad toward me. We get ahead of it, she said. Medical evaluation. Financial review. Third-party verification. I nodded. I want everything documented. Good, she replied, because once someone accuses you of being not well, the burden shifts. Evidence becomes your shield. Over the next few days, I did exactly that. I met with my primary physician, who confirmed in writing that I was mentally sound and capable of managing my affairs. I met with the bank manager, who confirmed that Megan's access did not include transfer authority. I reviewed the insurance and storage agreements for the jewelry, none of which listed Megan in any capacity. Everything was clean. Everything was clear. Megan, on the other hand, was unraveling. Her messages became frantic. Please just help Emmy this one time. Then cruel. You don't even wear the jewelry. You're hoarding it like a corpse. Then manipulative. What kind of mother watches her child drown? Each message strengthened my resolve. Because here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Desperation doesn't excuse entitlement. And being someone's parent does not make you their emergency fund. The final message of the week arrived late at night. Kyle says, if you don't cooperate, we'll prove you're unfit. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I closed my phone. Because now I knew exactly where this was heading. And I was ready. The guardianship papers arrived on a Friday afternoon. I remember the exact moment because I was standing in my kitchen, rinsing a mug when I heard the knock. Not a polite knock. A sharp one. Official. A courier handed me a thick envelope and asked me to sign. I didn't open it until the door was closed and the lock clicked behind me. Petition for emergency financial guardianship, filed by my daughter, Megan Caldwell. I sat down slowly, not because I was shocked, because I was disappointed. Elaine had warned me this would happen. When manipulation fails, people escalate. When guilt stops working, they reach for authority, and when authority isn't theirs, they try to borrow it from the system. According to the petition, I was financially vulnerable, emotionally unstable, and at risk of exploitation by outside influences. It claimed I was refusing reasonable assistance and hoarding assets to my own detriment. The irony almost made me laugh. Megan wasn't trying to protect me. She was trying to control the narrative before anyone asked uncomfortable questions about her debts. I called Elaine immediately. She did it, I said. Elaine didn't sound surprised. Good. Now we end this. The hearing was scheduled for the following Tuesday. 4 days. In those 4 days, Elaine and I prepared meticulously. Bank statements. Medical evaluations. Written confirmations from my physician, my financial institution, and the insurance company that managed my jewelry storage. We assembled everything into a single orderly binder. Because panic is messy, preparation is not. Megan, meanwhile, spiraled. Her calls alternated between pleading and rage. Mom, drop this, please. You're embarrassing me. If you loved me, you'd stop. Kyle left voicemails too, longer ones. Angrier ones. You're destroying her future. This didn't have to get legal. You think the court will side with an old woman who won't help her child? I saved every message. Tuesday came faster than I expected. The courtroom was small, almost intimate. No jury, just a judge, 2 tables, and the quiet hum of fluorescent lights. Megan sat across from me with Kyle and a sharply dressed attorney I'd never seen before. She looked confident, too confident, the kind of confidence that comes from believing the story you're telling. When she saw me, her expression flickered. She hadn't expected me to look calm. The judge, a woman in her early 50s with a measured voice, opened the session. Miss Caldwell, she said, looking at Megan, you are requesting emergency guardianship over your mother. Please explain why. Megan stood. Your Honor, she began, voice trembling just enough to sound sincere, I love my mother. But she's making dangerous financial decisions. She refuses to help when the family is in crisis. She's paranoid, uncooperative, and influenced by outside parties. The judge nodded slowly. And what crisis is that? Megan hesitated. Financial instability. Debts? Yours, the judge clarified. Megan swallowed. Yes. But family helps family. Elaine stood next. Your Honor, she said calmly, this petition is not about concern. It's about coercion, she handed the judge the binder. What you'll find here, Elaine continued, is a documented pattern of attempted financial exploitation, unauthorized transfers, threats, intimidation, and finally, a guardianship filing designed to force compliance. The judge raised an eyebrow. Elaine turned to me. "Mrs. Caldwell," she said gently, "are you able to manage your finances?" "Yes," I replied clearly. "Do you pay your bills on time?" "Yes." "Do you understand the value and purpose of your assets?" "Yes." Elaine gestured to the documents: medical clearance, bank verification, insurance contracts, all confirming competency. The judge reviewed them carefully. Then she turned to Megan. "Ms. Caldwell," she said, "did you attempt to access your mother's accounts without authorization?" Megan stiffened. "I was trying to help. That's not what I asked," the judge replied. Megan's attorney intervened. "Your Honor, my client was under extreme stress." The judge held up a hand. "Stress does not grant authority." She leaned forward. "Did you threaten your mother with legal or medical consequences if she did not comply with your demands?" Megan's face flushed. She misunderstood. The judge glanced at Elaine. Elaine pressed play on a recording. Kyle's voice filled the room. Doctors can be convincing. The room went silent. The judge turned back to Megan, her expression now unmistakably stern. "This petition is denied," she said, "and I am formally noting concern regarding attempted undue influence." Megan's confidence shattered. "But," she started, "this court does not exist to help adult children extract assets from capable parents," the judge said firmly. Proceedings closed. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Megan followed me into the hallway. Her composure was gone. "You did this on purpose," she hissed. "You wanted to humiliate me." "No," I replied. "I wanted you to stop." Kyle stepped forward, angry. "You could have just sold the jewelry. None of this would have happened." I looked at him steadily. "You don't get to decide what happens to my life," I said. "Neither of you do." Megan's voice broke. "So that's it? You're choosing things over your own daughter?" I shook my head slowly. "I'm choosing boundaries," I said, "something you never learned to respect." They left without another word. In the weeks that followed, the noise faded. The bank permanently removed Megan's access. The jewelry remained untouched, safe where it belonged. Elaine helped me update my estate documents with neutral third-party oversight. I didn't cut Megan out of my life out of spite. I stepped back out of necessity. Because here's what no one prepares you for as a parent. Sometimes loving your child means refusing to rescue them from consequences. Megan sent one last message a month later. "I hope you're happy." I read it, then deleted it. I didn't feel happy. I felt peaceful. There's a difference. Peace is quiet. Peace doesn't need approval. I still make my tea every evening at 7:30. I still volunteer twice a week. I still live in my home, uncontrolled, unthreatened, unashamed. And the jewelry? It remains exactly where it should be, not as currency, not as leverage, but as a reminder of a life built carefully and protected when it mattered most. So if you're listening to this and someone is rushing you, pressuring you, telling you that love means obedience, remember this: love does not demand surrender. Family does not mean entitlement. And protecting yourself is not selfish. It's wisdom. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, leave a comment and tell me which city you're listening from. And remember, you are allowed to say no at any age.